I'm Patricia Streeter, and this talk is about the Persecuted Church Advocacy and how much joy you can bring into your life through this, how important it is, and how you can help, how you can really make this happen and be a part of this exciting advance of God's kingdom. And there will be a 15-minute presentation, and then you'll have 15 minutes for questions and answers. So please hold your questions until then. Now to get started. The Lord has given me a great heart for the persecuted church. And I've been extremely blessed to be part of this for the past 20 years. But why am I so blessed? Well, the persecuted church, it turns out, is on the front lines of the most exciting advance of God's kingdom ever. More Muslims and Hindus are coming to Christ than any time in history, and they're sharing their faith dynamically. There are more Jesus movements, that is, new disciples of Jesus making more disciples than at any time in history. It's such an exciting time to be alive, especially with Jesus now appearing in dreams and visions, especially to Muslims. Wow. Well, where this kind of new life in Christ, there's always, I'm sure you've been hearing already, there's accompanying persecution. But as we pray for our suffering brothers and sisters in Christ, they are strengthened in their faith and they become even more vibrant witnesses to their persecutors. And I want to tell you a little story to illustrate this. Tom Doyle, in his book, Dreams and Visions, it's in the bookstore, so I highly recommend it. He shares a story of an Afghan Muslim named Mateen who experienced daily visions of Jesus, meeting him in the forest, and decided to follow Jesus after receiving peace and love that he had never known before. He says now, quote, "I read the Bible every day, and Jesus is leading me to Afghans who need him. I will serve him for life. Even if I am persecuted, I will not stop bringing Jesus to my people." He's often questioned, jailed, beaten, and threatened by authorities for his faith. And he knows he's probably going to die for his faith, but he's not afraid. Now that he has this piece of Jesus in his heart. This most extreme type of persecution happens where unreached people groups are hearing about Jesus for the first time. So, if you want to be part of blessing the heart of God by reaching these unreached people groups, prayer in support for the persecuted church is one very strategic way to do it, and you don't even have to go to Africa to do it. Not only is this very exciting, but all Christians, as Christians, we all have this biblical mandate to remember those who are ill-treated as though we ourselves were suffering. Hebrews 13:3. We are one body, and what they lack, we need to make up for, and just as they are making up for what we lack. They need us to stand with them so they can stand for him. Now, if you're a woman in India, and you become a Christian from a Hindu background, you can expect to be homeless. Why? Why do I say that? Well, numerous accounts from Open Doors share that very thing. The stories of women who are beaten and forced out of their homes by their Hindu husbands. Single mothers are especially vulnerable with all their children and no way to take care of them. Give you an example. In January of last year, a husband beat his 38-year-old wife because of her Christian faith before burning all of her clothes and throwing her out of the home along with their 4 children. When I hear about stories like this, how can I not respond? Whenever we give to and pray with people like this, we tell them, despite their circumstances, they are not alone. I have learned so much from their, spiritually, on a spiritual level, from their dedication. And, it's a privilege, it's an honor and privilege. How can I not stand with them by at least lifting them up in prayer as they're on the front lines of the spiritual battle? Hopefully by now, if not already, you're thinking, I need to do something more to support the persecuted church. But you might like a few suggestions on what to do. The good news is that there are many good organizations that focus on the persecuted church and they'll be very happy to help you. I'm a volunteer with Open Doors with Brother Andrew. You can go to their website here, which if we had more time, I would go to that website and show you all the wonderful things you can do. But let me just give you a summary of what is there. First of all, the most important thing to do is to pray. You can do that anywhere, anytime. You can post prayers on the Open Doors prayer wall so that the Christians know you are praying for them. That is really an encouragement. You can volunteer with Open Doors or other organizations if you have a little bit more time. You can be a social influencer by sharing stories and prayers for the persecuted church on social media like Facebook and Twitter. And you can also be a bridge builder or a connector, somebody who connects the American church with the persecuted church. That's what Open Doors calls us, connectors. And this is a wonderful thing. You can also bring all the churches in the U.S. together for that purpose to connect with the persecuted church. You can also write a letter of encouragement to believers that get delivered from Open Doors. And you can be an advocate with the U.S. government. I think Trump just gave a wonderful speech that was in response to people like you and me who contacted him and asked him to stand with the persecuted church worldwide. You can also donate to Open Doors, and that allows them to send Open Doors field workers right into the field, and where they can be Jesus with skin on these people. They can give them hugs and pray with them, and also just do tangible things to help them, like rebuilding their burned out churches and homes and things like that be a real encouragement to them. But at a minimum, every church should observe the International Day of Prayer for the Persecuted Church. This is usually on the first Sunday of November. And Open Doors has resources that your pastor could use on Sunday morning, sermon outlines, and also just special prayers that could be said on the Sunday morning service. You can also may want to host a special IDOP event in the evening, which is what I do. What you do is you secure a speaker, you write some prayers, you secure music and worship that goes along with it, and you can decide on an offering project that would help persecuted church in some specific country. That is all what I've been doing for the last 20 years, and it's a wonderful thing to do. But I hope you don't stop with IDOP. Our brothers and sisters need prayers every day. What you can do on Sunday morning, use that opportunity during prayers of the people to lift up your voice on behalf of the persecuted church. You may influence others to also pray with you for something that's happening around the world. And if you don't know what to pray, there's a wonderful Open Doors prayer app that you can get on your smartphone, and it will show you exactly what is the need right now. It's a wonderful thing to do. And another thing you can do is once a month, here's what I do, once a month you host a monthly prayer meeting considering focusing on a different country every month. And what you can get prayer points from, the websites like Open Doors and World Watch Monitor. You can gather information up on that country and just host a prayer meeting and pray for the persecuted church. I've learned that over the years, the attendance at these kind of meetings greatly increases if you just keep it short, like 15 to 20 minutes. And that's working a lot better for me since I did that. And you can, if you want to try to do this and you're not sure how to start, I've had people come to me and say, I want to do this. How do I do it? And I say, okay, I will email you some things to get you started. You can sign up right over here if you'd like me to put you on my monthly email list. I will send you all my materials, my prayer points, the information that I'm praying for that month. And you can consider starting your own group and praying with us all for that country that month. And I have some sample materials right on the table if you want to see what I email to you if you sign up. But in my 20 years of serving the persecuted church, I've also learned one thing. Food is a powerful inducement to attendance at events like this. As my previous mission leader at my church used to say, about missions night. If you feed them, they will come. Well, with that in mind, 16 years ago, we decided to start hosting an international dinner, a banquet for the persecuted church every year in May. The attendance is at least twice at IDOP. Let me show you some photos of what this looks like. You can see there a nice room. Everyone seems to really love this event. I get wonderful feedback. And the format of the event is exactly the same as IDOP, except we have this wonderful international banquet first, and then we sell tickets, and this means that the amount of funds that we collect that goes to support the persecuted church is much greater. So this is a real blessing to put together every year. A lot of people really love to cook, and they'll be honored to be asked them to come and be a chef. And if you're able to bring 2 or more churches together in an event of this kind, there's an even bigger blessing. In my case, because of my church's stand for biblical faith, we lost our building, so I didn't have a place to have my event. So in 2014, I found this external location for the annual dinner. Through a neighborhood Bible study person, I found there was a Calvary Chapel church in my area who was just delighted to open the doors to me and make it a joint event. So, and this has continued every year since, which is promoting, coming all together, better together, right, to serve the persecuted church. So, the Lord used our loss of our building to bring me this wonderful blessing, tearing down denominational walls, bringing us all together. God told me many years ago I would be a bridge builder. But I had no idea then what this meant. But I see now what he means. He is building bridges between us and the persecuted church around the world. And he's also building bridges between all of us, the U.S. churches, bringing us together for this wonderful thing. And now this past year, I'll show you how focused the Lord is on this. The Lord decided to bring all the churches in my city, in Costa Mesa, California, together to host one IDOP event. And I get to be involved with it. What a joy. It's such a wonderful thing to see that what the Lord is doing, and it's really not about me. It's about what he's doing to bring everybody together. I mean, the theme of this organization bringing us all together in Costa Mesa is, guess what? Better together. And what is the theme of this conference? Better together. So the Lord is really on the move here. Now, if you want to try to hold a banquet, you need more details, I'd be happy to share with you. I actually have an outline of what I do for the banquet over here on the table. And if you want to email me or give me your email address and we can communicate, I can give you more details. Just a few stories from over the years. One of the biggest blessings of hosting this dinner has been the very wonderful, interesting people I've been privileged to meet and work with. Our list of speakers spans the world. Some of my speakers have included a Chinese Christian who was tortured for her faith in a prison, Pastor Wally McDangle, who was almost executed in a Saudi Arabian prison for his faith, and a lost boy of Sudan who is now a bishop of South Sudan, through our prayers and support. And then, in 2010, the Lord sent the Reverend Dr. Allison Barfoot. I'm sure you've already seen her. She's here at this conference. This great missions leader. She needed $8,000 within a couple of days to seal the deal on this mission training center. It was going to be in Isiolo, Kenya, and to train up right in this very hostile area there in Kenya, the Somali area that you may have already been hearing about. And through our event, our banquet, guess what? We were able to raise funds. So she was able to build this training center, which is currently being built. Now, in 2015, we were blessed to have Ara Terosian, who's a Bible smuggler and church planner from Iran. He was such a good speaker, you can kind of see, preaching the word along with sharing his experiences. One highlight of the event was getting to introduce him and tell everybody the story of how the Iranian secret policeman that Ara called the Shadow had vowed to shut him up forever. But now Ara is preaching the gospel through satellite TV to 70 million Iranians, quite possibly to the Shadow himself. That would be a joke on him. And my speakers have included Tom Doyle, the author of Dreams and Visions book, Takush Hovsepian. She's the widow of the famous Iranian pastor who was murdered for his faith, who shared how the Lord helped her to forgive the murderers and bring people to faith through that kind of reconciliation effort. A missionary with 9 children who travels the globe with them, and Reverend Jerry and Stacy Kramer, you will hear from later on in this conference. They're the wonderful work to support the church in Iraq and Tanzania. And yes, although the food is what tends to draw people to this banquet event, we do have a wonderful time of prayer, and many people who come only because they were asked to be a chef have their spiritual eyes open to the reality of persecution and start praying regularly for the persecuted church. So over the years, the Lord has shown me in so many ways how important this ministry is to him. It brought me many blessings. I get to meet, as I said, wonderful people from all over the world, be part of promoting unity in the body of Christ, and I receive so much inspiration from incredible faith stories from around the world. But also, did you ever think of this? When people persecute our brothers and sisters in Christ, Jesus says, "Why do you persecute me?" Just as he said to Paul on the road to Damascus. So when we support the suffering church with prayer and advocacy, we are bringing joy to the heart of Jesus, a joy he liberally shares with all of us. And this is just a photo showing after the event how joyful I was feeling, hugging all of the people in part of this event. I hope you will pray about joining me and others in this great adventure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And any questions you may have, I have resources over here also from Open Doors. This great, it's probably one of the best World Watch List prayer booklets ever made. It shows a list and then it has a page for each country. It's really good. And then you can have wristbands here to remind you to pray. And this, if you sign up here, I will send you my materials every month. Any questions? Oh, I should probably hang up here. Yes.
Are there any videos that you would recommend that are helpful in showing in one of these meetings or congregation? I don't know, maybe a documentary about the persecuted church or.
Well, it turns out, there are tons of things, and we could look at the internet together. Open Doors has, if you just Google Open Doors, let's see what we can find, and if you want me to, here we go, Open Doors USA videos. If you're focusing on a particular country, and if you only want to have like a 2-minute video, what I tend to do is I tend to go to the Open Doors website itself, where they have the World Watch List. Open Doors USA. This is what I didn't show you because of time constraints. You can see here on the World Watch List, they have them ranked from top to bottom. This is the worst persecution in the world, is North Korea. And all the red countries are where the persecution is extreme, and then it becomes yellow, it's very high. And so what you can do, for example, if you're going to pray for North Korea, you would click on this country, and it would show you a little, this is just a 2-minute video here, and it shows you facts about it, what type of persecution is, how the Christians are suffering, examples, how you can pray. So there's a wealth of information, but also over here on YouTube, there are so many videos, it's hard to recommend even just one. It depends on if you're looking to know about persecution just in general. I'm sure there are some I would need to go and look for the right one. And if you communicate with me, I'll be happy to tell me what in particular you want, and put your email on here and tell me you want that, and I'll get it for you. Yes?
Yeah, I just mentioned that they have a showing of Christians in the Mirror, which earlier this week, which is a very well done video that covers persecution.
That's true. That's really a good point. Thanks for bringing that up.
If you like steak, and you get the longer version.
Yeah, this is a longer one. If your church is willing, my pastor says he's willing to show it. It would be like a movie night or something. You bring everybody. It was probably a couple hours maybe.
I think it's like a movie, but it's professionally done.
Yeah, it's very well done.
In Syria, in Egypt, in Iraq, in Nigeria, in India, in personal interviews plus a lot of videos. So it's a lot easier than traveling to those top countries.
Yeah, it's called Christians in the Mirror. So if you're interested in getting that video, I would say sign up over here and write Christians in the Mirror beside your name and put your email address, and I will get you information about how to get it. Yeah.
And that's free, right?
I don't know how they do it, but they want to take it to churches. And
Right.
I know they've had it in theaters, so I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that a little further. They made it sound like when I saw it on Wednesday night, and they made it sound like, oh yeah, we'll just get you I didn't hear anything about cost, but we should.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works, but I do know that the content is outstanding. One of the people featured is here from South Sudan.
Right. If you want to hear more about, he's one of the lost boys of Sudan, and he tells his story. He's starting the school. Yes. Question over here.
About 20, I think it might be 26. I attended my first Wineskins, and that's the first time I became aware at all of the persecuted church through the world. And it happened by my sitting at a table dinner, being surrounded by the lost boys of Sudan along with their bishops, and being told the stories. And I think that, to me, is the best approach to get people, I found anyway, at home, to get them intrigued. I went home and told my husband, he goes, oh, what do you mean there's persecution? And he didn't understand. So I showed him a little video, and I had people tell him the story. Now he's an advocate. I think that I found that's the best way, is when people realize. I went to Iraq a few months ago on a mission trip, and hearing their stories about real life and death and what it cost them, some of them even their children, to live for Christ, it touches you in ways you're not expecting.
Yes.
You hear it face to face.
That is so true. That's so wonderful. And even when you read their stories as well, if you read Tom Doyle's Dreams and Visions book, there are a lot of stories in that book about these people. They're on the front lines. They probably know they're going to die any minute, and they're out there boldly proclaiming their faith in Jesus. It's really inspiring. Whatever they suffer, they know. They have this eternal perspective. It's in their hearts. The perspective that we struggle so much in the U.S. to have. This eternal perspective is all about. It's all about Jesus. It's all about where our real home is in heaven. Preparing for that. This is a transition. This is a training period for us, and it's not meant to be just easy life. It's meant to really strengthen us in our faith, and they have that perspective. And that's what I am learning from them. I am gaining and growing in my faith from that, because it is too easy for us to just turn a blind eye and ignore that, because we are spoiled in our culture with, just fun. Everything's fun in movies, and everything is quick and fast and easy. And I catch myself complaining about something and say, wait a minute, Patricia, that is a first world problem. You know, we need to keep their perspective, which is a more eternal perspective. And that's where they may not be happy, but they have joy. They have joy that some of us don't have. Some of them, they get out of persecution, they come back to here, and I've heard stories about how people get lulled into our life, and then, oh, what happened to my intimacy with the Lord? Sometimes that's what happens to them. So we can learn from them, and they are in places where they can make a huge impact for the kingdom of God, for the Great Commission, for Jesus coming back when the Great Commission is finished. They are in those places of unreached people groups. And so you are doing something, you can do it. As you might have figured out by now, I'm a little nervous, I'm not a public speaker, but God is using me anyway, and I'm an ordinary person. God will use you. You don't have to be polished or wonderfully put together to do something like this. And what happens, you do it, and God just blesses you along the way. Yes?
I'd just like to comment on what you said, and I'd love to hear what you heard of that. But, and I feel called to be a portrait of the persecuted and suffering church, which is photography, right? So I've had a lot of those types of encounters.
Speak up a little.
So I've had a lot of those types of encounters. What I've learned, though, is we say the persecuted church, that's like pronouns. I don't know what we think about, but what we're really talking about is persecuted brothers and sisters. If we use that, it becomes a little more personal. But what you discover is what Patricia said, is that it is Christ who is suffering. When you see the light in Saul, that's a converting experience. That what we're talking about is people sharing, our brothers and sisters sharing in the suffering of Christ, and Christ himself suffering. So, you know, if you think about Gethsemane, right? Most of the people from Palm Sunday were at home preparing for dinner. A number of disciples were invited out, and 3 of them were in the garden. And I think that's the real question that when we think of the persecution of Christ through the persecution of our brothers and sisters, which make up the church. And so it's a very sobering thought. But it's Jesus. If you want to see Jesus, if you want to be close to Jesus. In women, of course, that's the majority of the people who were still there, because we're down to 1 at the cross. And by the time it's at the tomb, it's only 1. So I would beckon the women who are the spiritual backbone of the church. You know, there's a very special place for Christ's suffering in our brothers and sisters. It's a very special role for you.
Right, exactly. And actually, I was speaking at a Persecuted Church pre-conference yesterday, and I talked about the trends in current persecution of Christian. And one of the trends is more and more the women and children are being targeted because the enemy knows that Boko Haram and people like that who are, you know, attacking these people, they know that if they destroy the women, they destroy the Christian family, and then the whole Christian community dissolved. And they were trying to exterminate Christianity in these countries. But guess what? This is behind them is Satan, and Satan is, we know how this book ends, and Satan is defeated. So we just need to be part. Jesus is calling us to be part of advancing his kingdom through standing with these people in the front lines. You know, they're the soldiers on the front lines, but they need reinforcements from us. We need to be as involved as we can, and this brings great joy because now you are involved in something with eternal consequences that is going to bless the heart of Jesus. Why would you not want to do something that's not that hard? Really, it isn't.
Forgive me for asking this overly simplified question, but what does open doors do?
Okay, sure. Sure. Since you're asking me, and it's beyond the 15 minutes, I can now have freedom. I was hampered by the 15 minutes at the beginning of this slide, but let me just go to the Open Doors website here.
You did a brilliant job of letting us know how we can get involved immediately. So that was great.
Oh, thank you much. You can go to the Open Doors website and click on ACT. And here's how you can take action. Well, it goes through in a little bit more detail. It mentions praying, and you can see learn more here, and you can download the Pray for the Persecuted Church app to your smartphone. You can get on the Open Doors list for prayer alerts, and they will send you a prayer alert every week that helps you pray.
Does Open Doors have people on the ground?
They do.
In these countries and so on?
They do. So let me go.
Open Doors and look up a story on. They have a center up in the northeast corner of Nigeria, which is where Boko Haram was conceived. Women have been brutally treated in the midst of that. They have a healing center. That's one example, and it's a huge need.
And they have trauma counseling. They open what they call centers of hope in places like Iraq and Syria, where it's they help rebuild the burned out churches and homes in places like that. Help Christians rebuild their lives. I know a story I told earlier about two sisters in India, and they were dragged out of their home because they had converted from Hinduism to Christianity, and they were beaten. One to the point of her wrist was broken, dragged out of town, the bone poking out, and she didn't know if her sister was dead or alive. But somehow they found each other, and Open Doors found them and helped them. They moved them to another village. They helped them open a small stationery shop so they could, support themselves. So Open Doors is down there doing help in tangible ways, like, helping Christians rebuild their lives. Also, they have some seminars for them called, how to strengthen your faith, help them get prepared for, what's coming their way. And they are very active in Nigeria, I think, as you already mentioned, where 6,000 Christians were either killed or maimed for their faith in Nigeria last year alone. So they are trying to help the Christians. A lot of them, they are very poor because they are thrown out and they have to be refugees. They have no food or clothing. They're there to help with practical needs and also with spiritual needs. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes. Wait a minute. Let's take yours first. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's just a comment, I guess, but I think one of the things that's really recently in the life of the network of churches that I'm a part of, there's a Iranian PhD student who came to Christ after 3 years of attending one of our churches, but he gave a testimony before his baptism and just told about how, please don't post about my becoming Christian at this point because my family might be threatened. Just very serious reality of persecution in Iran.
Oh, very serious in Iran as well. Many people imprisoned in Iran. You cannot even begin to go to church, in Iran, especially if the church is speaking the local language, Farsi language. You're in big trouble. Many people imprisoned and tortured in these terrible Iranian prisons. So we have to be careful with people here that we do not, in our effort to help them, that we don't expose their families to further persecution. Very good point.
Yeah.
And you had a question or comment?
Just a comment that back then when I first heard about this, I didn't know resources through the AIM, at that time the Episcopal Church. So I wound up being guided to Pastor Wormwood's story and got the book Voice of the Martyrs. And I read that, and then that led me to Voice of the Martyrs.
Right.
It kind of does the same thing you're doing.
It's another good organization.
Right. And they have great resources too. But one of the common themes that they said was a church can just simply put together some Bibles, but have them done in their languages that they're requesting, and then ship them to one of the persecuted areas that are there. They make packs that they drop from airplanes that provide for people that are those air packs that they make, and they're not expensive. Those are things you can just do that are tangible through the church here. So you don't have to travel there, but you're still
Right.
providing and giving.
You can do that, or you can designate a gift to Open Doors or Voice of the Martyrs. I wanted to designate it for this if you don't want them to have to bear the shipping charge of shipping it all over there. There's different ways of accomplishing the same thing, and that's all good. You're reminding me of something else now. Oh, I wanted to tell you, though, when you mentioned the Anglican Church, we just yesterday at our Persecuted Church pre-conference, we established the Anglican Persecuted Church Network. So I invite you all to join in. If you would like to join the network, I can find another page. I'll put it out for you to sign up. And what it will allow us to do is to communicate with each other, outside of the time of new wineskins, which only happens once every 3 years. We will be in communication with each other. There's a Facebook page. There's Anglican Persecuted Church Network. You can just try to apply to join that group, and I'm an administrator. I will let you in. It will help me if I know who's applying. Tell me who's going to apply, and then that is all of you, so I can accept you in. And there's a Twitter account. There's a Google email group. And we're going to be publishing our banner and our bookmark to the wider Anglican communion soon. So it's all good, and I hope you'll consider joining in. Thanks. Thank you very much.